Welcome to Talent Weekly Office Hours, the segment in which we distill this week's news on talent, work, and education. I'm Daniel. Every Friday, members of Future Talent Council receive Talent Weekly, a curated selection of the most important talent news from sources around the world. In this segment, Office Hours, we look at some of those featured news pieces and ask for more context. What do these world events mean for me, my organization, my job, and my people? With me today, calling in from Dallas, Texas, in the US, my friend Greg Muccio, Managing Director of Talent Acquisition at Southwest Airlines. Welcome, Greg.
Thanks, Daniel. So happy to be here.
Fantastic. Hey, Greg, what's on your desk right now? What's the highest priority?
Yeah, so we've been in a pretty big growth mode here at Southwest, and like many companies, we're hiring a lot. We set a record last year. It looks like we'll do the same thing this year, and as an airline, for anybody that travels, right, those frontline folks are key folks, because if we don't have them at the airport, and in the ability to fly the plane, then we don't make money. It isn't about having a longer line or something like that. If the planes only make money when they're up in the air, so we're certainly hyper focused on just maintaining that level of staffing and exceeding that, frankly. And then in addition to that, my personal belief is the things that we're seeing in the labor market right now aren't going to go away anytime soon. I think we're in for this for a while. And if that's true, then we're going to have to find new pools of talent, both internally and externally, outside of the company. And so we've got a lot of focus on trying to figure out that. And how do we find them? How do we upskill them? The things along those kind of lines.
Yeah, and that's why I think it's so fascinating, because what I wanted to talk to you about today is obviously AI. Obviously, but it's AI, right? Because everyone is talking about AI, and it does this time around, right? Feel like the advancements of the last couple of months or even weeks are actually significant, right? And but before we dig into those details, I mean, like you just said, you are the global leader of a big organization, 60, 70,000 workers, global brand, and you're responsible for recruiting and everything from executives, pilots to, like you said, the frontline workers. I guess mechanics, luggage handlers, tech workers, right, as well.
Right.
The whole shebang, right? From that perspective, from an overarching perspective, what is going on in this development, with your glasses on, right? And how might it affect your work?
Yeah, it's interesting because in an operation, especially one like an airline, I think in some places AI is a little bit limited, but there's still that self-service component, those sorts of things. I do think as we move forward, I do think the use of AI, if you will become part of the workforce planning conversation, right? So, and if you begin to just, where you can, start dividing things up as tasks, right, that have to get done. And so of those tasks, which ones does a human really have to be, you can't do it without them, to where could a person self-service, right? And then I think down at the end, where is there automation that could maybe do some level of producing in that? And I think that'll soon become part of the conversation there.
Yeah. And I'm going to bring up here as well a screen, just looking back at Talent Weekly, right, and what we have been seeing over the past couple of weeks here, right? And these are just some of the articles that we've been linking to over the past couple of weeks. And you and I are not going to go through all of these ones, right? But it's an interesting development, because I think when we all fly and visit the airport, I think we might sense that we see less and less people in talent when we encounter your brand and others, right? And at the same time, we're, like you said early on, we're in the middle of this crunch on the market where we just cannot find enough people, right?
Right.
So I just want to, when we sort of start to peel the onion here a little bit, I want to ask you, looking at the talent acquisition colleagues around the world and anyone looking in talent development, talent management, where are we going wrong here, do you think? What are the risks?
Yeah, no, thank you. I think it's a great question. I think it's a very important one. I'll be real honest, I think, Daniel, we're not asking it enough and enough frequency. I think, you know, the speed of what we are looking at AI, right, and what people what can it do, and it's just moving so fast of how can it help us and what can it do. We're not maybe stopping for a second and going, what should it do, and then more importantly, what should it not do? And I think that's where the danger is. And I think even when you look at some of these, I think there's an easy out that's happening that says, hey, if somebody misuses something, that's them doing that, right? And I think that's, you know, pretty lame. One of the companies that's one of the ones that's up here, I know in the last 2 weeks, 2 students in my kids' class got busted for using that particular program on a test, right? And so to me, there's, as a talent assessor, there is a worry that at some point in time when I begun to evaluate you for a role, who am I talking to? Am I talking to somebody that a machine created and is a figment of their imagination and what I want? Or am I really talking to somebody that can do this work? But I think for companies like myself, I think one of the things that's and it's a little bit personal, I guess, is that I hear a lot of talk. People use the word blue collar worker, which I hate, or hourly, or the front line, and there's a lot of companies that are using or wanting to use AI to fully make that hiring selection, and I think that's a huge mistake. I think it's great. I think it's very, very powerful to make that candidate experience better, to make yourselves more efficient. But I mean, think about the places that you go and that you interact with the front line. Like for Southwest Airlines, not very many customers interact with our CEO or executives, but every time they fly, they interact with our front line. You go to a retail place, highly unlikely you'd even run into a manager, more or less the store manager, but it's that frontline worker. Restaurant, hotels, right? I mean, you think about who you encounter the most at a hotel. I'm always like, it's the cleaning crew, right? That's who I see every single day and interact. And they have the biggest impact on how happy my stay is, right? And so that's the thing that I would be worried about is folks that are saying, hey, we want to automate this so much that we don't have to be involved. And man, if you're a public facing brand, your frontline person is your brand. It isn't the logo or all the other stuff. That is who your brand is.
Yeah, no, 100%, right? I'll stop this here, but I guess I want to ask you. I mean, that's so important, right? So I mean, so how do you see? I mean, you talk about workforce. How do you see us all building workforces? I mean, it's a broad question, but generally, and even our own capabilities specifically as well, right? In this kind of environment, I mean, because in terms of skills development, talent management, where do you think the smart, quote unquote, smart money, time, and resources will go here in this development?
Yeah, I think the world right now is does not have enough folks that can critically think and then problem solving. And I will just tell you down, if you can solve problems, you will be employed for as long as you want to work, right? Because there is no company out there that I know of that is like at any kind of level, any size, scope, whatever it is. It's like, hey, we got everything figured out. We just need doers. No, it's you need people that can solve problems. And so I think that's a really big piece of that. And I think, so to me, the balance with the AI and the automation pieces is, are you using it? If you're using it to free up time so that people can do more high valued stuff. I mean, that's my approach with TA at Southwest. We are high tech and we are high touch. And so my use of it is so that my TA team can focus on more important stuff, curate stuff, where a candidate can and wants to be self-serve, and can take care of that. All that kind of stuff is great, but at the end of the day, it's all about making sure that the human of the human resources is having the human contact.
And I think that's a beautiful way of putting it. I mean, you said it in the context of your TA team, but broadly speaking, the entire workforce and ourselves, right? High tech, high touch, being accelerated by technology, and being develop ourselves on the uniquely human aspects, right?
Right.
Fantastic. Greg, thank you so much for your time here today.
Yeah.
We will link to your profile in this segment. If anyone here wants to see what the Talent Weekly Briefing looks like, I'll hit the link. I'll hit a link below as well. And also meet both Greg and myself in Stockholm for the Future Talent Summit, June 14 to 15 in Stockholm, and we'll link to that as well. Greg, thank you so much. Thank you for all the awesome work that you do. And yeah, let's get to it, right?
Thanks, buddy. I appreciate it. Look forward to seeing you in a month and a half or so.